Okay, we are now recording.
Yep. Yeah, sure.
Welcome to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting. When the meeting begins momentarily, the chair will take a roll call, explain any specific rules for this particular board, and then move to public comment. The name of the board member will appear on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. For instance, this is board member Y, and this is board member E. Public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. You can indicate that you are ready to testify by clicking on the raise hand button being circled by the mouse on your screen now. At the appropriate time, the board will recognize you to speak and ask you to unmute your mic as shown here. Again, public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. Public attendees will not be able to unmute their microphone until recognized by the board. Public attendees who are recognized to testify will be asked to identify themselves by name and their affiliated organization if applicable. Please mute your microphone when you are finished speaking as a courtesy to others and members of the board. Public attendees will not be able to unmute themselves after the testimony is completed unless recognized again after raising their hand. At some point during the meeting, the board may choose to move into executive session. When the board moves into executive session, the board members' microphones and video feeds will be turned off, and a similar screen as you see now will be displayed. When the board returns from executive session, their microphones will be turned on as well as their video cameras. Welcome again to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting. At this time, the chair will call the meeting to order and take a roll call, as well as explain any additional rules that may be specific to this board.
Welcome to the public meeting for the Hawaii State Board of Barbering and Cosmetology. Instructions on how to participate can be found on the agenda posted on the state public calendar. I will now take roll call. Members, when I call your name, please respond with present or here. And if you're joining us remotely, indicate if there is anyone with you at your location. Raynette Hall is here and alone. Ashley Cornelio.
Present and alone.
Michael Basta Jr.
Present and alone.
Leo Williams.
Here and alone.
And I'm calling this meeting to order, and the time is 12:05 p.m. And on to agenda item number 2, approval of minutes. Is there any public testimony for this item?
No public testimony at this time, Chair.
Is there a motion to approve April 14th, 2026 minutes?
I move to approve.
A second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, now approval of June 9th, 2026 public session and executive session minutes. Is there any public testimony for this item?
No public testimony at this time, Chair.
Is there a motion to approve the June 9th, 2026 minutes?
I motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. At this time, the board will move into item 5B to receive a presentation from the Regulated Industries Compliance Office, also known as RICO.
Do you want to go either way?
Either side, the cameras are on both
Yeah.
sides. I'll just go here.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for coming. If you could state your name and your employer and present what you're doing.
My name is Esther Brown, and I am the Complaints and Enforcement Officer for the Regulated Industries Complaints Office, or RICO. I hope everybody can hear me, especially the board members on the screen. I was asked to come to the board meeting just to talk in general about RICO and also to respond to some issues or questions that arose in the last year or so. So I'd just like to take a few minutes to just give you an overview of RICO, what our role is, how we conduct our work, and then respond to some of the issues that have come up over the last year with regards to the adjudicatory process. So in a nutshell, RICO is a statewide agency. We have offices, our main office is here on Oahu, but we also have offices on the Big Island, two, one in Kona and one in Hilo. We also have an office on Maui, and we have an office on Kauai. We employ right now roughly around 58 employees statewide. That number fluctuates as there's constant revolving door with state government, but we're pretty steady at about 58 or so employees, consisting mostly of investigators and attorneys, because that is our role. We are the board's silent partners in the sense that we do investigative and prosecutorial work when charges or claims of misconduct arise. If there are no charges or claims of misconduct by a licensee or an unlicensed person out in the community, then you'll never hear from us. So we are a limited role. We're a silent partner until we are triggered. Our work is mostly individually filed complaints. So we are a complaint intake organization, and people file complaints with our office when they run into a problem with a service provider or when they engage in a licensed provider out there. So we receive complaints, we vet the complaints, and then we can take action on the complaints. With regards to your board and other boards that are attached to the Professional Vocational Licensing Division, you will see RICO come to you in the form of a contested case proceeding that has already taken place, and a recommended order would come to you from the Office of Administrative Hearings. But most of what you will see from RICO will be a settlement agreement that has been negotiated with a licensee, and it's coming before you for final action. Because even though the community and everybody out there believes that RICO is the one that can take away your license, or RICO is the one that can fine the licensee, that is not true. It is only the board that has the authority to do that. So again, we are the silent partner. We investigate and we prosecute, and then we hand it off to the boards to make the final determination. We have a huge charge. We're as big as the Professional Vocational Licensing Division, meaning we have over 4,000 statutes and rules under our kuleana that we have to be responsible for. We regulate currently 52 different industries, just like the PVL division does. So real estate, healthcare, the building industry, the auto industry, the beauty industry, such as the fighting industry, mixed martial arts, boxing commission. We even have some jurisdiction over navigable waters because we do regulate port pilots. So our jurisdiction is diverse. How does RICO work? RICO has three main divisions, and our first division is probably one of our most busiest division, and that's our intake section. So when complaints are filed, either manually, somebody can come and drop off a complaint or a tip or some information with our office via email, they can send us information. Or in the last 5 years or so, it's been very popular for people to use our online portals to file complaints and tips electronically. It's very user-friendly and very easy to do. All of these complaints and inquiries land in our intake section, which is comprised of support staff as well as investigators, and they review every single one of those items. They need to determine whether there's a minimum threshold for us to proceed, or whether or not this is something that shouldn't even be in RICO, perhaps another division in DCCA, or perhaps another agency, or perhaps, another level of government like the federal government. So all of these information comes in, they vet it, and they determine what to do with it. If it is If the minimum threshold is met, meaning there's enough information in the complaint or tip to possibly see a licensing violation down the road, then if it's a more a less sophisticated matter, the intake investigators can handle it themselves. They can do the investigation and recommend action on it. But the majority of complaints that come in that meet the minimum threshold, and there could be a licensing law violation, are referred to our investigation section. In this section, we have the majority of RICO employees. They're comprised of investigators, many of which have had many years of regulatory investigation, some of which have come from law enforcement at the state and federal levels. And they conduct the meats and potatoes of the investigation. Their investigation can be simple in some cases, meaning they just send out, a Q&A, a written question and answer form that the licensee can respond to. But most of the cases aren't that simple, and it does demand a bunch of time and analysis. And so they may interview people, they may interview the parties, they may seek information from third parties or other witnesses. They may end up subpoenaing records from third parties as well. And in some of the cases where there's a technical issue or an issue really that only practitioners in that industry know the answer to, then they can consult with an industry expert to help them review the evidence and render an opinion. So the investigators, again, it can be very simple or it can be very complex. If after conducting the investigation, they believe there's enough evidence there for us to go forward to prove a licensing charge, then that case can be referred to our legal section. Our legal section is comprised of attorneys. It's like a small law firm. We have 12 positions in it. And they will review completed investigations and determine whether or not this is sufficient for us to proceed with enforcement action. Sufficient as well as something that is impactful. The last couple of years, they've not only looked at whether or not there's enough evidence, but whether or not this will impact the industry. And then if there is enough evidence, good evidence, reliable evidence to meet our burden of proof, and it is impactful, then they can proceed with enforcement action. What is key for enforcement is good and reliable evidence. The fourth this is sort of like a partner, a silent partner of RICO, but we rely on it regularly in order to help with our enforcement work, is education. I totally believe that the most informed or well-informed consumer is the best thing that anybody can be in order to protect themselves against bad actors out there. And that's no different in the professional vocational licensing arena. So RICO has expended a huge amount of resources just to put information out there to the general public. And so the first place we tell people to go to is to our website. Our website contains a wealth of information on many of the popular industries. We also have a Q&A form, which I believe is double-paged, and it contains sort of a summary of what the complaint process is like and what RICO does. It answers questions like, what is my role if a RICO case is filed against me and I'm a licensee? What if I'm the person that filed the complaint? What if I'm the complaining witness? What do I do? What are my rights? And what will RICO tell me? So all of that information is available through our website, as well as brochures that are downloadable for free on substantive industry areas and questions. So number one, go to RICO's website is what we tell consumers. It is also very helpful for licensees. In fact, on our website, there is a section for licensees. It says information for licensees. And if you click on that, then you will see commonly asked questions by licensees. It talks about advertising issues, for example. It talks about what to expect if you are the subject matter of a RICO investigation and how to cooperate and so forth. So there's information dedicated just to licensees. We also have a link to our complaint portal. So if you as an industry member are out there and you see one of your colleagues doing something wrong that should be reported, you can. You can report it via a form of complaint, or you can do it via an anonymous tip. Either way, it will come to RICO and we will look at it. But please be advised that if it is a tip and an anonymous tip, we can only go so far with that information. We will need corroboration, we will need good and reliable evidence, or we may not go that far. So many a times, especially in your industries, we get tips about, this particular person is doing that, or they're using unlicensed people to do X, Y, and Z. And they give us an address and we go and investigate, and everybody there at the time is legit. So we do respond to anonymous tips and complaints, but it can only go so far if we're unable to get the reliable evidence that we need for a successful prosecution. We also educate via licensing groups like and industries. So we make presentations such as this. We are out there in community events, trade shows, and so forth. We do have a presence to answer questions of consumers. And through the complaints processing process, for example. So the majority of the complaints that come through RICO, we will not take formal enforcement action on, but there is a lot of discussion that is occurring between my staff and the licensees and the complaining witness to help educate them about what the licensing laws are and how to comply. So overall, our workload is challenging. We get about 5,000 plus complaint inquiries a year. We process between 2,500 and 3,000 new complaints annually. We are able to complete about 1,200 to 1,500 investigations a year. But if we're getting 2,500 plus new complaints a year, there's a lot that still carries over every year. We also do compliance inspections. So on the unlicensed side, which you guys do not see because you deal with the license, but on the unlicensed side, we do have a team of investigators that go out into the community regularly to inspect, to make sure that the licensees are licensed. And if not, they can issue citations, which would include a fine and an order of abatement to stop the illegal activity. We also do compliance checks online as well. So if a business is advertising on the internet or whatever, we will look at those to make sure that the advertising is legit. And if not, we may contact that particular business and educate them, and we could even take legal action against them depending on the circumstances. And every year we seem to average a couple hundred of formal legal actions. This would be legal actions against licensees that you are in charge of, as well as against unlicensed persons. And in a nutshell, that's kind of RICO operations. What I do want to share with you, members of the board, is certain realities with RICO. And one of the realities is that it can take a while to process a complaint. And by processing a complaint, I mean from the intake to the investigation, to getting it to legal, to some sort of final closure. It can take a while because of the numbers that I just shared with you a few minutes earlier. We're talking about thousands of complaints that are processed every year by a staff of roughly 57 or 58 individuals at any one time. Because we have a large number of complaints and tips that come in every year, they are handled in the order that they are received. In all fairness to the person who filed 6 months ago versus the one who's walking into RICO today. So we do handle them in the order that they are received. It's very hard for consumers to understand that, but then when we explain to them that people who filed 6 months earlier than you, their dispute is just as important as yours is, and they deserve to go first because they were first. Most consumers understand that. We do, however, prioritize certain types of complaints. For example, complaints that may involve serious bodily harm, such as sexual assaults or physical mistreatment of your clients and so forth. We try to elevate those as much as possible. Complaints that may involve severe economic harm that is ongoing, and we have good evidence of that. We can sort of expedite that as well. And of course, this week being the 3rd anniversary of the Maui wildfire, cases involving sort of community or state priorities, we tend to look at those as well and expedite. But all others will pretty much fall into line, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. See, we have our intake section at the top, we have our field investigation section that does most of the work in the middle, and at the bottom, we have our legal section. So really, RICO is like a funnel. And the majority of the cases that come into us are disposed of at the top level in intake. Remember, I was saying we have 5,000 plus inquiries that come in. Many of those don't even belong in RICO. Many of those don't even belong in the DCCA. You know, people have complained to us about actors and so forth. None of that stuff belongs in RICO, so we can take that off the table immediately. But we do have a lot. Most are disposed in the Consumer Resource Center. But the majority of complaints that we end up closing without legal action in RICO is for insufficient evidence. Insufficient evidence in quote. And I say that because there is consequence to that terminology. Insufficient evidence means that we do not have good evidence or something is wrong with the case that we are unable to prove it up according to the standard that we're responsible under the law. That's all that it means. So for people who file complaints with us, we are telling them that we cannot, based on our investigation, meet the standards we're required to, either in circuit court or before you as a board. That doesn't mean that you weren't wrong. Just because RICO says no, it doesn't mean that you weren't wrong as a consumer. It means there's something potentially wrong with our case that we cannot go forward. And it could be anything. It could be an uncooperative witness. It could be a very biased witness. And by this, I mean, the last 5 years or so, there's been so much going on social media and in the press. And there's a lot going on with respect to investigations that RICO conducts. And the media and social media is very aggressive. And they can find out who has filed a complaint and what it involves. And they can go out there and they can talk to the people who filed the complaint. They can talk to the subject matter of the complaint. They can do a whole-on expo story on the complaint. That impacts our ability to conduct a fair, impartial investigation with integrity. Because by the time we come around to the point where we're ready to prosecute, these people have potentially been tainted because they're talking to these outside sources, because they have lawyered up, because they are filing a civil suit. So there are so many things that can impact our investigation. Majority of our cases are closed as insufficient evidence. That means that after the legal team has reviewed it, there just isn't enough for RICO to proceed. But it doesn't mean that the person who filed the complaint with our office wasn't wronged. And what we do in the beginning is we try to encourage consumers to have sort of a multifaceted approach to a dispute, meaning come to RICO and we can try to do what we can, but also don't forget your other remedies that you might have available, or maybe talk to the licensee and try to resolve it. Take ownership of it, and maybe you might be able to resolve it versus at the end of, a year or two, the RICO case falls apart and we can't do anything. So we're constantly dealing with consumers, trying to help them, but we may not be able to in the end. Any questions so far about RICO and the RICO process and RICO operations before I address the bar and cosmetology questions that you had?
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you say the complaints go through, you guys will consult an industry person.
Yes.
Do you have a specific person that you utilize? Or to me, I would think you would want to utilize the board members who are in the industry, or is that not allowed?
That is a great question, and there is a statute in place that allows us to have a list of advisory committee members. That is what they're called, ACMs. And so every board has a list of these experts, and we do utilize them for our cases. I don't think sitting board members serve as ACMs. I'm just not sure. Or if they do, it is very rare because ultimately these cases will come back to you for resolution. But yes, we do have experts who are volunteers, and we maintain that list. So when we encounter an issue that requires your expertise, then the investigator will reach out to see if you are available and willing to review the evidence in our case and render an opinion for us. So we do have a standard list. I have to say that in recent years, with people retiring and moving on, the list has dwindled. And also some cases, there can be quite a bit of information and it can be fact intensive and it can require a lot of time. And all of our experts are volunteers and they have their own practices too. So sometimes, one of the industry experts may not be available to handle our case. And so we'll just go down the list and find one. But we do have a credible list for almost every industry. And I know that the boards also are working really, really hard to bring more of these experts on board to help us.
Your boards that are at RICO.
All the PVL boards, that is correct.
Oh, okay. So our office crew recommends people to you folks. Is that what you're saying?
It can be either way. Some people just contact us. So let's take the real estate industry, for example. A real estate broker just might contact us because they know somebody at RICO and say, hey, I'm interested in helping out on these cases. The boards themselves, so the real estate commission and the commissioners may know people out in the profession that might make really, really good experts. So they can recommend that they come and apply for the ACM process. So it really is a give and take. And there is a vetting process as well. So we will vet the candidates and then their names appear in front of the board and the board can approve or not.
I've been in this industry for 25 years and I didn't even know that you guys had this position. So for somebody who's been in it as long as I have, it's a shock that it's an option to volunteer for this position or even be considered for it. So
yeah, I'm surprised.
But then I also had a question. Out of the 5,000 complaints, how many on average are from our industry?
Oh, okay, I can get into that a little bit later. I do have the numbers. I cannot answer how much are from your industry, but I can talk a little bit about the numbers for bar cause in a minute, if that's okay with you.
If you could find that information out, I'd love to know that information in general. It doesn't have to be today. Because I would like to know how many complaints of our industry are out there on an average.
I can easily do that. In fact, we have to report certain information to the legislature every year. And I do think every once in a while, bar cause is up there as far as the amount of complaints received in a year. So I can get that to you.
Okay. And my last question, I'm all over the place, but when you say the insufficient evidence, I know you said that it could be that you don't have a reliable source or things like that. But when it's insufficient evidence on a reoccurring salon, how do you vet that? Because if this salon gets multiple complaints, why isn't it being investigated?
Again, that's a great question. We do have businesses that are sort of, constantly we receive complaints against. Every single complaint is a different complaint. And so even though an organization or a business may have multiple complaints against them, each case is a different case and each case stands on its own. And we have to meet our burden of proof in each one of those cases.
Okay.
I think, organizations like BBB, Better Business Bureau, and even our complaints history website, I think if you're going to look up a business and there's multiple complaints but insufficient evidence, that should tell you something. Do you want to go to the business that has multiple complaints or do you want to go to the business that has none? I think that's a consumer choice that they can make. So because we cannot meet our legal burden because we are entitled to due process and we can't trample on that, we can't make our burden, we can't take legal action. But a large complaints history should say something to the consumer about whether or not they should choose that organization.
That was my last question.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
How you doing, Esther? My name's Michael.
Hi.
And my question is, you are unable to revoke a license or suspend a license. Is there a critical mass of infractions that you received where you can recommend it? Because see, a lot of our concern is the repeat, the repeating offenders, that we see over and over again doing the same thing. And we kind of feel like we don't know who's tracking it, And I understand you can't revoke the license, but we kind of feel like we don't have the power or enough information to do that. So are you tracking that on any level? And is there a point where you would refer to us for possibly considering revoking a license?
Yes, that's a great question. And yes, we do have, some information on prior complaints that have been lodged against the same licensee, for example. And that information is taken into account when the attorney works on the case. And if it's going to be a settlement, when they're negotiating a result, a discipline with the respondent or the licensee. So yes, all of that is taken into consideration. If the attorneys, after reviewing the case, feels like this is a strong case for actual action against the license, such as a suspension or a revocation, you'll see those cases.
Okay, now does the amount of infractions that they have play into that at all? Or is it just an individual type of case?
I think a variety of factors are considered in determining what type of discipline in RICO's eyes would be the appropriate discipline to bring before the board for final approval.
I
Not
got you.
only, yes, so it's a lot of information. It can be what we have in the file. It can be the credibility of the witnesses. It can be the credibility of the respondent. It can be the legal arguments that are raised by the respondent or the respondent's counsel. It can be the lack of evidence that we do not have, that we can't get a grasp on. It could be a gray area. It could be there's a case back here from 10 years ago with the exact same facts, and how are we going to play it out? How is this different so that we can bring it to the board, for a different solution? So there's just a huge plethora of factors that are considered in determining what is an appropriate sanction to bring in front of the board. They do look at prior cases. They do look at board minutes. They do look at cases that are somewhat similar. They do look at complaints history and prior disciplinary action. And so if somebody has disciplinary action before and they're not learning, then you're going to see the recommended sanction escalate. And in fact, some provisions of the law allow for that. $500 first offense, $1,000 the next, $5,000 for the next. So the law anticipates it. And the legal team actually does analyze in that respect too. So all of these factors are considered, and then they propose a resolution that is fair, considering similar cases and the direction that the board is going in.
Awesome. Thank you.
I move to executive session. Make a motion to move to executive session with Rico.
I'll second.
Sorry, before we proceed, did we want to allow Esther to finish the presentation, or was there something specifically about, is this to see if the board is able to ask a member?
If we finish the presentation and then we can move to, I would make the move to ask questions after. Okay. I'll decline the move to executive session, the request.
Yes,
So presentation is complete.
Yeah, I don't mean to prevent you from asking anything.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I'll ask it later. Thank you.
I do have another question, unless Ashley, do you have a question before I go again?
You can go ahead.
I have a question about how you guys handle practicing without a license and advertising online. You did discuss that in your presentation. And one of the things is those wouldn't come through us.
That is correct. Thank you for reminding me of that. Yes. So you would see cases involving licensees. Unlicensed cases, you guys do not have jurisdiction over because there's no license. So those we investigate and we prosecute too, but those will go in front of the circuit court. So that is where we would go for unlicensed cases.
Is that something that do you give the names of those people to our board in order for us to recognize that they've previously been prosecuted for those not working with a license. And then when they come to get their license, and then it just out of curiosity, do you guys give those names to our board?
We do not. Again, we regulate 52 different industries, but when we do take actions against unlicensed person, those reports are on our website, reported quarterly. So, it is public information, when we do take disciplinary action or legal action actually against unlicensed person.
Can I ask how much you guys, if they are prosecuted, what is the fines for practicing without a license?
It could go anywhere from $500 to, several thousand to 100,000 range. It really depends on the industry and what type of unlicensed behavior is being committed. In the contracting industry, for example, if they engage in unlicensed activity or we issue a citation for unlicensed activity, again, you could start off with a $500 fine. It can escalate to 1,000. It can escalate to 5,000 or 40% of the contract price or the services provided. So it can be pretty steep.
And for those who, because apprentices are not allowed to pay for apprenticeship when they're working at a salon. So if I go to a salon and I want to be an apprentice and they are charging me $5,000 to work for them as an apprentice, have you guys had cases like that? And do you, like, because they are a licensee, I guess I'm just concerned because I've heard of people, this happening to them. And
I'm
so,
not, yeah, I'm not aware. I personally am not aware of that. We could be seeing it. I'm just not sure. I can check with my team, but I don't see all the cases that come in on a daily basis. So if you said it is an issue, maybe it is something that our team is looking at currently, but I personally do not know.
okay. That was it. Thank you.
Great question. There's someone, another board member?
So, I mean, from what I understand, the settlement agreements that, are what they're given with their fine. Once they pay that, from what I understand, it's almost as if that previous one, it doesn't necessarily disappear, but it really hasn't been taken into consideration because I've been seeing multiple businesses come through with the same infractions of people operating with no license. And so I think my ultimate question is for Rico, when is it enough before we revoke a license or suspend it? Because like I said, I've only been on the board for a very short period of time and I've seen multiple businesses coming through with the same things happening and they're just paying the fine. They're paying the fine and catching another fine and then paying it off. So it's just a loop cycle that is happening that I feel like is also part of the problem.
So if you're talking about cases involving different businesses, but similar violations that are coming through, the fines seem to be the same, or are you talking the same
I'm
company?
talking the same establishments having the same thing happening on multiple different occasions. So there are multiple cases for the same business.
The exact same business or a different office?
I mean, Raynette, was that not last year where there was that
Yeah, I don't want
nail
to name.
spot?
Yeah,
I'm
there
not
was
gonna
a
name,
nail
but it was
spot that came
had
through.
multiple.
And it might have been that the person unlicensed was a different person. And that's why it was a separate case, but it's still the same license salon.
Business, but it's still the same beauty operator license. So that establishment should also be catching a charge or a case every time they are having an unlicensed person operating in there. Both parties get fined typically. So again, at what point, I mean, because the board is we can only do so much because RICO has to go out and investigate this. If you guys are
Right.
investigating the same location, and again, it might be a different person, but it's the same establishment.
Well, I would think all of those, all of those scenarios have been considered by the legal team. Like I said, I don't know the specific cases. I don't know what's in the case file, but I can say that our attorneys do consider everything under the circumstances. I don't know if there's a prior case out there. There are other restrictions that are limiting it. If it is the exact same establishment, right? Because you can have establishments with multiple sites and so forth and different licenses. But if it's the exact same person and the exact same license, and that person is allowing unlicensed activity to occur within that same premise, I think that would be considered by the legal team in the proposal for sanctions, definitely. But there might be something that's distinguishing those cases, and I can't respond to that here today, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's on sort of the RICO operational side. I looking at the time, I know I'm taking a lot of time, so I just want to go specifically to the bar cause industry. Based on the numbers that I just looked at a couple of weeks ago, the vast majority of enforcement by RICO is in the unlicensed arena for your boards. Meaning we have our unlicensed task force that is out there that's going on site to make sure that people are in compliance. And just numbers wise, looking at the last 10 to 25 years, on the bar side, there's approximately 700 cases that involved legal action. Half of that was unlicensed and half of that was citations, meaning they went out and they issued a citation where they saw something online, an advertisement that was inappropriate, and they issued a citation. So that's on the bar side. On the cause side, it's very similar, roughly 700 matters or so. This one, it's very skewed because almost 650 of that was citations on the cause side, cosmetology. 600 of that was citations. And I think the reason for that is because of the law that was enacted in the last 10 years ago that gave RICO the authority to issue citations on licensed people if they fail to display or if they don't put up the price list for services or a sign that says, you can get a price list if you ask for it. So I think in the last 10, maybe 15 years, there was a law that introduced that allowed us to issue a citation to licensees for certain type of notice requirements, failure to, again, put up the license or failure to put up the price list or make it available to the public. So that's probably why the citation numbers are so large in these areas. It's because of those types of citations that are being issued. And if I'm
Sorry. I don't want to interrupt, but I have to.
okay.
So what we get settlements. Okay, so these are the documents that we get, but we don't get citations. So when they get a citation, RICO takes care of the entire citation. And you stated there were 700, was that last year? The citation?
This is pulled from the last 10 to 25 year period. I tried to pull as much as I could. And these are the numbers, 700 bar.
Oh, okay. So a settlement is a citation.
No, it's not.
Correct. So what we're getting are settlements. It says settlement for whatever the fine. Those are settlements. They are not citations. Do the boards get citations?
You would not see a citation. But there is an exception for the bar cosmetology chapter. And we can issue citations to licensees because usually a citation is issued to an unlicensed person. No license.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. So an unlicensed person receives a citation with a fine that the board does not see. That is correct.
That is correct.
Okay, that's what I wanted to clarify for the board members because they don't see that portion and they just want to know that these non-licensed people that are working in shops without a license illegally are being cited, but it's not in our jurisdiction, so we are not able to see it. But when we see a shop settlement, that would constitute that someone had received a citation, correct? I mean, it would be, so if we see a shop that has a settlement that they allowed someone with no license to work in their shop, we can assume that someone has received a citation for working illegally in that shop, correct?
You see a settlement agreement for a shop owner alleging that they aided and abetted unlicensed activity.
Yes,
That would be the scenario that matches what you're asking me.
exactly. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, so but there's one little twist to this, is
Mhm.
that there is a law on the books for both of your chapters, or for the single chapter now, that allows RICO to issue citations to a licensed person for failure to provide certain notice requirements.
Yes. Yeah, they would also get, yeah, they could get something for licensure. On
So
our laws, it states 500 as the fine. There is no 500 to an extended number. So we noticed that RICO has always just done the 500. It's not 500 to 1,000 or so on and so forth. It's just 500. So you would just go with that number, correct?
I think if the attorneys negotiated a $500 fine, there's a reason for that. First offense, on and on and on, a variety of reasons. But it's not an automatic thing. Every case is different.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And I do want to elaborate that there's a little twist with respect to citations for barbering and cosmetology licenses, is if it is a notice violation, we walk into a shop and none of the licensee's license are displayed, we would issue a citation for that $500 fine. They would pay it. You would never see it. But if they do not pay it, because they are a licensee, we could bring it back in front of you. That's the
Oh, okay.
only exception. And I don't think that's ever been done because they probably pay them all.
They
But
just pay them. Do you
yeah.
do sweeps?
We do.
You do sweeps.
We
How
do.
often?
I would say we have investigators going out, every couple of weeks, if that. And then
And they
sometimes
sweep a neighborhood of salons and barbershops.
they can. They also respond to tips. So if a tip comes in on the tip line that so-and-so's over there, I just left and the person on a license,
Right.
they will go out to the site and check it
But
out.
without complaints, they do sweeps.
We do it regularly, yes.
Okay, that's good news. That's something I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Anything
You-
more on the license side? It's a lot, and it is a lot. And if you guys have more questions or you want me to come back at some point in time, I'm more than happy to come back and provide more education for you. I'm a little bit shocked that one of you didn't know that we had industry expert in ACMs and a list and so forth, and I'm very sorry about that. It's been with me ever since I've been with RICO. So it seems like there's a lot more that maybe I can do or PVL can do to help educate you guys just about the whole process of this enforcement, and be happy to. But I do want to take a second to move to the license side. Okay, so citations and all that unlicensed activity. On the license side, I did go back and look at disciplinary actions for both of your boards in the last, since 2010. I just went onto the website and looked. Since 2010, there's been 83 final orders that have been entered for your boards, 83. And I think that number has gone up because these stats are from June. So 83, that's roughly 5 final orders per year. So what does that mean to me as a regulator? That means, I think you guys have 12,497 licensees as of June 2025. And Alan, you can check that number for me, but the stats I got from PVO was 12,497 licensees and 83 final orders in the last 10 years, 5 per year. What that says to me as a regulator is that your industry workers are doing good, or there's some underreporting, right? And we're not getting all of the bad actors. But I tend to believe it's because the industry workers are doing good. The licensees are doing good. Far across the board, we have 170,000 active licensees altogether in the 52 different industries. We end up taking legal action, maybe 200 cases a year. We get maybe 2,500 to 5,000 new matters every year. That tells me, as a regulator, that the vast majority of people who hold a license are doing a good job and are in compliance. And that holds true just based on the numbers of final orders that have been entered. So these are matters that are brought to you in the form of a settlement agreement or in the form of a contested case proceeding with a recommended order, and we come to you for a final decision. 83 in 10 years.
It's just in the last, since COVID, we've had an excess of non-licensed activity. Yeah, a total excess. And I mean, I just get personal complaints, but it's not my job. I just tell them, go
File with
seek
RICO.
RICO, right? Yeah, I say seek RICO, but yeah, it's just shops in neighborhoods that are just pop
Yeah.
up, no license, do the whole shop.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The frustrating part for a lot of the stylists, at least in the younger ones that have been licensed, I do believe our industry is a good industry and we try to follow the rules. It is the unlicensed ones that are on the internet that and Rico could just jump on and see these people, and you could probably check and see if they're licensed. They're advertising for themselves on Instagram, saying, "Come to my house. I'll do your nails. I'll do this. I'll do your hair." And that's the frustrating part for those of us who are doing it the correct way. And I don't know if Rico has a staff that actually sits on the internet and looks for Hawaii, people doing nails and researching if they have their license. I know you guys don't have the capability of that, but
We try
that is,
to. Yeah,
that's
we
the
certainly
frustrating
try
part.
to.
And
Yeah.
like Leo said, it's not my job. It's not, I want, like, as many times as I want to turn somebody in, I also believe in bocce, and like you just, I don't want anything to come back at me, because, and I also don't want to hurt anybody's livelihood. If that's how they're feeding their kids, that's, but that that's the frustrating part for us who are licensed and following the rules. And then we jump online and we see people doing fabulous nail art. They're good, but they don't have their license.
Then it's under reporting too, probably on the unlicensed side. And that's why we do allow people to report anonymously. So if you're concerned because you don't want to rat people out, or because people are having a hard time earning a livelihood and supporting their families, there is a way to do so anonymously. We would not use your name. We would protect your identity, in fact. But we need specific facts: who, what, when, where, why, time. We need that in order to do anything. So people on social media or whatever, inviting people over to their house so they can, do their nails or do their hair and charge them a price. We will never find out where that house is. Unless we go underground, we will never find out. And so several years ago, we did have a case where somebody was sort of saying, "Come over to my house, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z." And we did have time, so the investigators did a sting, responded by text, made an appointment, went to the person's house and got busted. Person got busted. We were able to take action against them. They like doing that kind of stuff, by the way. So they love it. And if they had more time, they would. So when I go back, I'm going to talk to them about it. See if they can make some time to just peruse. But they do. They peruse the internet. They peruse, the advertiser, all sorts of stuff, and send them letters. And believe it or not, when people get a letter from Rico, they respond. So sometimes just sending out a letter saying, we noticed this, or somebody said X, Y, or Z, they turn around fast and respond. It's the ones that don't that are
I
problems.
think that those kinds of cases, if the board knew when those happened, we don't need to know who it was, but hey, we just busted 3 people doing, services out of their homes. That would make me feel better knowing that you guys are doing that as a board member.
Yeah. And I think the communication of the work that we do through citations and in unlicensed cases are the judgments that we report quarterly on our website. We wouldn't disclose that information to you in the middle of the investigation or in the middle of the prosecution, but the end result of issuing a citation, that would be reported. It is public information on our site.
And it does say it was for doing hair or nails or.
There would be a
without-
summary. There would be
Okay.
a summary of why. Yes.
Okay.
Do you investigate all anonymous complaints?
We receive all anonymous complaints and we will try our best to investigate them. But if they're just, so-and-so down the street is doing unlicensed contracting, no more address, no more person, no more nothing, we can't do anything. We get a lot of those. Or my next door neighbor, is.
Incomplete. Yes, but you do actually eventually go through the entire list.
We review them, yes, they are reviewed. So I would encourage you guys, when you guys get people contacting you about so-and-so is unlicensed and doing X, Y, and Z, send them to our portal. If they have concerns about reporting it, they can do so anonymously. Somebody will be looking at that. And again, the more information, the more specifics they can provide, the more we may be able to do with it.
But if they did give all of the specifics, you eventually would follow through.
Yes, we would go
Or,
check it.
or are you too overwhelmed to follow through?
My team likes doing that. So
One.
they really do. On the one
Sounds
hand,
like you're overwhelmed.
we are overwhelmed, but they like getting out in the field and visiting businesses and in doing that. They have to balance it. So like you said, periodically they will go out, they'll run the list and they'll go out and they'll go visit sites. So don't let our scarce resources, for lack of a better term, don't let that dissuade people from filing or sending information to us.
If you have any last few points to follow,
Yes.
we're all interested in hearing
Absolutely.
so much more.
And I can come back, guys. I can come back.
Hope we can wrap up with.
I'd be happy to,
in the next few
but
minutes.
just a couple of minutes on the issue of settlements. You asked this. So settlements are negotiated by the attorneys and the licensee or the licensee's attorney. They look at a variety of things. They look at similar cases. They look at case law. They look at board meetings. For guidance, they consider defenses, legal arguments by the respondent, and weaknesses in the case, including witness availability, witness credibility, as well as corroboration. Because if you got a he said, she said, she said, she said, or he said, we need something to make it objectively known that one side is more believable than the other. So there may be a lack of corroboration.
So you took the settlement, but if it was a citation, we wouldn't have seen it. So you turned it into a settlement, is that correct?
No, settlement would be for cases involving a licensee. So if we're going to bring a case to you and take enforcement action for a licensee, those are the factors that are to be considered.
But if the licensee just accepted it, wouldn't it be a citation?
No, a citation is a tool used for unlicensed cases,
Correct. Only unlicensed. Or what about a violation? For instance, they didn't post their license, but they were licensed. Isn't that a citation?
It could be a citation. Yes, that's the one unique thing about your industry is that we are able to issue citations for notice violations.
Mhm.
But let's talk about, let's use the real estate industry for example. Any unlicensed real estate transaction would just be unlicensed citations. Go in front of the circuit court. But if it's a licensee, a licensed broker, a licensed salesperson, it would come in front of the real estate commission. We cannot find anybody. We can issue citations, but only you can find them and you can discipline the license. All right. And then the last point was follow-up and monitoring. I think this was a question. So if a fine is imposed, as soon as the fine is paid, we can update it and it's reflected in real time. If there's a payment plan, we update it according to the payment plan. If it's discipline against a license, such as a suspension or a revocation, that's immediate. PVL can put that in as soon as the order is signed and it's final. And if they include something that has a continuing obligation, such as taking CE courses, for example, then it's mostly the board and the EO that will monitor that process. I think those were the questions that you wanted answered. And I know we ran out of time. I do apologize for other agenda items, but I am sincere in that if you would like me to come back, at a later time and continue to address questions and issues that you may have about enforcement from RICO's perspective, I would be more than happy to do that. Absolutely.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Leo, do you still feel like there was something you wanted to discuss for an executive session? Or has that been taken care of for now?
Yeah, the later time. I declined the executive session.
Okay, thank you. All
Okay,
right, well, thank you, Esther.
thank you for coming.
Thank you.
My pleasure, guys.
Okay, so continuing on, the board will enter recess for chapter 91 matters. Do we have to vote to go to executive session for this?
No, just recess.
Okay.
No, not that one.
So is the stream on recess now?
automatically. It's updating.
Okay, is everybody back?
Yes.
Okay, during the recess, the board has determined to defer the adjudicatory matters for beauty operators license Dana A. Sedeno Mercado. I motion to defer. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Okay.
Sorry.
On to, oh, did Ashley?
Oh, yes. Would the board send the written notification to Miss Sedano Mercado so that she knows that it's gonna be placed on the next board meeting agenda?
Yes, yes, I'll send out multiple first class certified, just to make sure we cover all our bases on
Yes,
proper notice.
thank you. Thank you.
I'll make sure to give you a copy of what we sent out.
Thank you.
Yes.
So applications. We are we entering into executive session?
There's no applications at this time, unless the board feels the need to discuss anything on the ratification list. The simple motion to approve the ratification list should suffice.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the ratification list?
I motion to approve the ratification list.
I second. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, and then on to the executive officer's report. The board will receive a report from the executive officer.
Yes, thank you. For the exam statistics for the month of May, the barbering styling theory, total of 8 exams were provided with 4 pass and 4 failures. 5 of those were first time attempts, with 3 of those failing, with 2 of the first times passing. The cosmetologist theory examination, a total of 19 exams with 12 failures. 11 of those 19 were first time, with 6 of those first time passing and 5 failing. For the aesthetics theory examination, a total of 60 exams were offered, with 31 passing and 29 failing. 45 of those were first time attempts, with 21 passing and 24 failing. For the hair design theory examination, 3 exams were given with 1 passing and 2 failures. 2 of those 3 attempts were first time, with 1 passing and 1 failing. For the instructor's examination, 2 total exams were given, with the first time attempt, one being a first time attempt with 1 failing. For the nail technician exam, 36 exams were provided, with 18 passing and 18 failing. 20 of those were first time attempts, with 11 passing and 9 failing. On the next month, for the barber's exam, 10 exams were provided, with 3 passing and 7 failing. 5 of those first times were 2 passed and 3 failed. The cosmetology, 15 exams provided, with 4 passing and 11 failing. 6 of those being first time with 3 pass and 3 fail. The aesthetics theory exam, 43 exams provided with 15 passing and 28 failing. 29 of those exams were first time with only 9 passing and 20 failing. The hair design theory, 2 exams provided with 1 passing, 1 failing. The first time attempt being a pass. For the instructor theory examination, 4 were provided with 3 passing and 1 failing. 3 of the first time attempts were 3 passed. For the nail tech examination, 20 exams were provided with 9 passing and 11 failing. 11 of those 20 attempts were first time with 6 passing and 5 failing. For July, 7 barber styling exams were provided with 3 passing, 4 failing. 2 were first time with 1 passing and 1 failed. Aesthetics theory examination, 43 total exams with 18 passing, 25 failing. Of those 43, 25 were first time exam attempts with 13 passing and 12 failing. For the hair design theory, 6 exams were provided with 5 passing and 1 failing. 4 of the 6 exams were first time attempts with all 4 passing. The instructor theory, 1 exam provided with 1 failure, and none of those being a first time attempt. For the nail technician exam, 15 exams were provided with 2 passing and 13 failing. Of those 15, 12 were first time attempts with 2 passing and 10 failing. And those are the exam statistics for those months.
So continuing on to business is on item number 6. Is there any public testimony for this item?
Yeah, that's no public testimony at this moment.
Okay, board member Leo Williams will now present the report. You're muted.
According to the new legislation, the board has to determine the rules for the braiders. So the braiding certificate. So through the research of the other states, I've come to the conclusion of the 3 choices, and I would like the participation of DCCA and feedback with what they think as well as the board, but the board ultimately makes the decision. The first is some states, they just have a certificate, and then you would have to follow the rules that were set forth on the laws, and they would just apply, but you're just taking it in good faith that they're going to follow the rules. The second scenario, the states they're following this scenario, which is fine, which is an online or a workshop. It's just a workshop. So it could be 1 or 2 days. It's just a workshop. It could be online. This is where I need DCCA's participation if they can assist. The states are actually making an online that they have to register through the state for this online certification sanitation. It is not, you're not just pulling any kind of random certification for this, because that could be changing. The board would have to approve it. They have to not approve it, and so on and so forth. So it would be specific to the state that they would take an online or a state workshop that they would take for sanitation, patron protection, and recognition of disorders and diseases, and so on and so forth. The third scenario is an actual curriculum that would be written into the rules, which we're rewriting the rules so it kind of works synergistically with that. And that could be anywhere from 20 hours to 300 hours. Some states have adopted that. They have to go to a school. They need to attend a school. It has to be in an educational environment. And they would receive a certificate of completion and automatically get the certificate. There is no licensure, so I don't know if there's any examinations that would need to be met because that would constitute licensure. It's not licensure, it's just a certificated program. So the board has to determine which of the three scenarios that they would do, but the state does recognize, it does recognize that sanitation is a part and it needs to be on the board. A couple of concerns are place of practice. That has to be written into the rules. Place of practice. Is a braider able to open a braider boutique? I don't know if I have to go into an executive session for something like this. I might, because I think that might be rewriting the laws. Yeah.
If there are any discussions
Yeah,
requiring we could do that. If we just present everything that you have.
Yeah, so I presented that. So place of practice is a concern. If it's kept in the salon, it's not going to be a problem. So that means that they have to work in a licensed beauty or barber shop, which is licensed by the DCCA and so on and so forth. So that wouldn't pose any problem. Yeah, but we do have to make a decision because it needs to be written in the rules. And then, to have the rules, kind of, they're going to be kind of updated. And then it kind of works synergistically with the update. So I'm a board member and also doing the presentation, but ultimately it stated that the board is to choose. So I don't, we need your impact and that's the information. So at this time, I would like to move to executive session.
Okay, you're motioning. I'll second.
Yeah, I moved. Yeah.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're moving to executive session. Is everyone back?
Yeah.
Okay. So, do I have to motion to defer?
No, you can just announce, we can continue these items at the next meeting.
Okay, we are going to the continuing business, we're gonna continue till the next meeting, which is October 13th, 2026 at 12 p.m. The meeting is adjourned at 2:35. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, Leo.